What's up? I'm here in front of the sweet new metalwork signs we got here at the gym, and today I wanted to talk about training intensity in the context of Olympic lifting. Now, when we talk about training intensity, we're just talking about the overall effort of a specific task. So if we're talking about intensity in Olympic lifting, 90% of your 1 rep max in the snatch would be considered high intensity, 70% of your 1 rep max in the snatch would be considered lower intensity. Now, typically higher intensities are what is going to help progress us in the sport. Now, if you're a beginner and are new to the sport, a lot of your progress will just be through a lot of repetition and building the technique and skill of the snatch and clean and jerk. But as you get more involved in the sport and your training career lengthens, you're going to need more higher intensity effort to progress and hit the numbers that you want to hit in the long run. Now, I want to talk a little bit about kind of how we program and prescribe intensities at Lift Lab to help people progress what we would think the best way. Now, when we prescribe intensity in our programs, we don't really use the percentage method really, and we don't really use RPE. I think RPE can be really good in the sport of powerlifting, but since Olympic lifting is so technique and skill based, I think RPE is not the best way to approach it, because your RPE, your rate of perceived exertion on a specific lift, could change quite a bit just on how technically sound you perform that lift. So if I complete a snatch and it's really technically sound, that could be a low RPE. But if I screw something up technically, that could increase my RPE just by the technique change there. So what we do is we kind of prescribe sets and reps, and we kind of prescribe intensity based on, we sometimes give percentage zones, but we kind of give the athletes just a kind of a range to work with, whether it's on the program or not. And the way we do this, we might prescribe sets on the minute, on the 2 minutes, on the 2-minute 30, and we might give a percentage zone, say from 70 to 80% on that day. And the benefit of doing this, what this does is allow the athlete to increase their effort that day that is not dictated on actually the physical state their body is in that day. So if an athlete is really beaten down, they slept crappy the night before, they're just not as generally well recovered as on any other given day, what this does is allow them to ease back but still increase their effort on that day. So if going back to the 70 to 80% zone as an example, say an athlete is really run down, they're not well recovered, they can stay on the lower end of that zone for all their accumulative sets that day. And what that does is they're still able to put in a high amount of effort on that day compared to kind of how the physical state of their body. Now, on another given day, if they come in super fresh, their body is just generally feeling good and kind of operating on all cylinders, they can stay on the higher end of that percentage zone and can still drive high effort that way. So the percentage zone, or just giving the athlete some room to work with in regards to intensity, that helps them train at a high effort and high output without tearing them down. So if you just gave somebody, they have to hit 85% on this day and they're not well recovered, their body is kind of beaten up, that might be too much effort for them to even hit the lifts, or too much effort where their body's just going to get beaten down even more and they're not going to be able to kind of recover and adapt from that. Now, in the same concept, if someone comes in super well recovered, body's feeling really good, and there's a specific percentage of 85% to hit, because their body feels so good, they might be able to hit higher than that day, and 85%, I'm just kind of making this number up, might be too low, and it's not enough effort to actually drive the adaptations that you want to drive. So giving the athletes kind of a zone and some room to work with in regards to intensity helps them stay at a high amount of effort without breaking their body down too much, and helps them train based on kind of how their body's feeling that day. So it kind of helps them stay adapting and not beating their body down too much, but also giving them enough intensity and effort to work with that they're continuing to adapt to the training. Now, when it comes to competition prep program, this is when the idea and goal of the program is to drive a little bit more training volume and intensity on the outer edges of what they're actually capable of recovering from, in hopes and in theory of deloading and tapering off towards the end as you get closer to the meet. In theory, again, in theory that we're going to get the spike in performance. Now, even with these kind of competition prep programs and heavier training cycles, if you kind of tinker on that outer edge of training volume and intensity too much, you might kind of fall off the cliff and the athlete won't be able to recover. It's too much volume, too much intensity, too much effort for them to recover from, and you won't see that spike in performance from that taper like you wish you had. So taken away from what I just said, on the competition prep program, you on those heavier or that higher intensity side that you're tinkering with, you can't push too much or else you're not going to adapt and see that performance spike like you wish. But we typically, again, play with these kind of zones of intensity so people can drive high effort depending on how their body feels that day. And we may only prescribe specific percentages and specific intensities if we're actually on kind of more of a competition prep program. Hope this helps, hope this makes sense, and hope you got something from it.